remote planet that is far from busy. An individual from Galactic routes lived there, the father and his two foreign-born daughters. Father, a guy of silent power and unwavering resolve, had created a peaceful and secure existence for his daughters. They were not like any other creatures, had previously encountered elegant, radiant creatures possessing powers that defied human understanding, but they were his family, whom he cherished with the same ferocity as could. The father have located any parents? The daughters were stranded years ago, and their origins were unknown on their own, however. They were obviously not from this earth. He gradually put the pieces together, from the little words they were able to could exchange, as well as the technologies they had. They were the last of their kind to be carried, chased throughout galaxies, because elevators were just as vicious as they were. Unfathomable, in spite of the danger, he had promised to protect them at any costs. Life on Earth came at a simple cost, and they had all three carved out a habit that provided a tenuous feeling of security. Typically, the father supported their need using his inventiveness to adjust to the unfamiliar surroundings. The daughters, who were eager to learn and inquisitive, have otherwise been bonded with him right away. Spoken in a variety of fragmented sentences and motions, establishing a language that was exclusively theirs, as he had instructed them. The significance of keeping an eye on the peace, they always found enjoyment in a delicate one. He frequently reminded them that they were in danger. Their concealment was essential to their safety. Steer clear of detection at all costs. He instilled a profound sense of fear instead, awareness of the risks involved in his love for Viola. They were seen in each and every. He wanted them to understand that they were not by himself, that he would endure between them and any potential threats. Despite their youth, the daughters' manner had exceptional skills. They might detect alterations in their surroundings with an astonishing level of precision. Their speed and agility were unparalleled, and their connection to the natural world was nearly mysterious. But they didn't have the experience to negotiate the dangers of an antagonistic. The father viewed Galaxy as his own obligation to close that gap, to get children ready for the risks they may face. Difficulties had always been a shadow in the distance, something they had prepared for but hardly encountered. But lately, minor adjustments to their surroundings suggested that the air was under imminent danger. Had a strange tension and unusual noises interrupted the routine. The father's pattern of their days, 3 years of survival honed by instincts, suggested to him that their sanctuary might not. Unknown to the daughters, you are no longer safe. The father had been keeping an eye on faint signals on the planet's periphery. These indications suggested the existence of mercenaries known as interstellar hunters, who sought out unusual creatures in order to make money, had previously come across their sort and was aware of their strategies. Effectively, they were persistent, outfitted with cutting-edge technologies, and once they smelled it, they became greedy. The father would stop at nothing, didn't express his misgivings he didn't want to burden his daughters, not yet, with fear, but quietly started getting ready and strengthened their house, concealing it even more from onlookers. He strengthened his makeshift defenses, fresh ones, and made plans for everything that could. Scenario that went through his head quickly. Tactics, all of which focused on making sure the weight of his girl's safety was burdensome. But he endured it without remorse. There was no bigger grievance for him than Morton their defense, even though he found moments of strain to remind the daughters of the surrounding beauty. He showed them the names of the stars, constellations, and narrating their tales. He desired for them to contain distant worlds, continue to ponder despite the danger. After all, they were kids and they deserved comfort. The father frequently thought back on his dreams. The relationship they had established was a relationship that went beyond words on the basis of unconditional trust, sacrifice, and affection. He was amazed at how well they had grown to be a family, in spite of their disparities, that had given him a sense of direction, and he had given them a chance in return to endure as the days went by. The indications of imminent peril intensified. The dad understood when it was time to be silent. The final stages of preparation were approaching. Ideas were a mixture of determination and concern. He considered what he would have to take the measures he would to keep them safe, go to make sure they're safe. There was no question that he was prepared, to be prepared for anything that came their way. With the steadfast resolve of a love from father, the hunters were a vicious force, armed and motivated by avarice, utilizing cutting-edge technology that provided them the advantage in tracking and catching uncommon terra. They were beings from all throughout the galaxy, meticulous and persistent collection of bounty hunters and mercenaries, bound by promising them enormous profits. Their mission was to clearly capture the girls and take advantage of their special abilities. Whether for scientific testing, weaponization, or sailing to the top bidder, they trusted their advanced instruments, from drones that can search large areas for weapons intended to render someone incapable without causing harm to their targets. Each participant in their team was an expert in a certain ability that makes them a strong squad. Hunter was their leader for a season, a remarkable capacity to predict his approach. His movements were a quality that made him strong. These were especially deadly and dangerous. Not your typical chasers, they flourished on their track record of consistently finishing. The father is completely aware of their goal. Their strategies didn't waste any time getting ready. For the unavoidable challenge, his years of survival, he had learned from experience the importance of his ability to be resourceful and adaptable. Worked non-stop to strengthen their constructing traps and defending dwellings intended to take advantage of even the slightest generational possibility. The hunter technology's shortcomings, every action he took was calculated, every choice was deliberate, and he was aware of the destructive potential of such technologies. It would be difficult to discourage hunters, yet he was also aware of their arrogance could be used against them. Preparations went beyond the actual defenses. He thoroughly examined the daughter's special skills in recognizing strategies for incorporating their skills into his schemes, and their enhanced perceptions, agility, and consciousness of the environment became resources, and developed plans that depended on hiding and attacks. The daughters, in return, but still young, started to comprehend the gravity of the circumstances as their father led them through exercises and situations. His composed yet forceful manner assured them, giving them a feeling of comfort. Have faith in his guidance. When the hunters started their approach, it became evident that they failed to account for the father's resolve. Their first inquiries were satisfied with surprising opposition, as the numerous traps and decoys intended to father, mislead them, and slow them down, took advantage of every chance to research their strategies, recognizing trends and vulnerabilities that, he was able to take advantage of his consistent perspective, moving quickly, changing his plans as needed, and maintaining an advantage over the hunters' improvements. The hunters' perseverance was uncompromising. They started deploying more advanced techniques that make use of cloaking gadgets and spoof signals to increase their movements. But the father wasn't readily misrepresented. His encounter with he had an advantage because of similar threats, enabling him to predict their future moves remarkably accurately. The daughters, who were guided by him, performed a vital part in keeping an eye on their environment, warning him of even the smallest alterations to their surroundings. Even though they tried their hardest, the hunters successfully penetrated the outer perimeter. This crucial moment served as a test of the hunters, the families, and the father's defenses. Capacity to cooperate under pressure. The father maintained his composure, coordinating their reactions with the daughters, adhered to his precision, directives without reluctance. They have faith in him, regardless of the circumstances, became more tense as the hunters pushed their advanced weapons beyond. Providing them with a clear advantage, the father used deception as a tactic. They used the terrain to take calculated risks, to his benefit, by compelling the hunters to enter vulnerable places to his traps. Each action he took was created to buy the hunters some time. Busy making sure his daughters stayed safe, his resolve was unwavering, driven by the understanding that he could not allow himself to fail. Don't let the hunters win while he was still strong enough to battle the enemy. Despite their talent and experience, hunters started displaying signs of annoyance with their leader's perception of their being ordered a regrouping after being outmaneuvered. A momentary stoppage in their progress provided the father a vital chance to adjust his approach. He employed the time to reevaluate their assets, confirming his daughter's comprehension of their involvement in the war that is developing. The daughters, in spite of their anxiety, showed incredible bravery and resilience, demonstrating they're more than equipped to compete with the hunters. Got ready for another attack. The dad was looking forward to their rekindled interaction. He knew they wouldn't repeat the aggression, the errors in their first strategy, and modified his strategy in accordance with his. The capacity to anticipate multiple phases was essential to keeping the upper hand even against such strong adversaries. the contribution of the daughter became growingly important. Are the special skills permitting them to outwit the hunters in ways that the father by himself was unable to? The dispute reached a breaking point as the hunters intensified their pursuits, utilizing more sophisticated instruments and strategies to corner their targets. The father's unwavering determination was equaled. Every new difficulty is solely due to his inventiveness. Encountered a novel solution, they maintained. The daughters were guided by the hunters at bay. His example showed a developing certain of their skills. They were active participants rather than passive observers, participants in their own defense. In spite of their achievements, the father realized that this was only the beginning of the hunter's perseverance. At first was a continual reminder of the stakes, pressure that required constant attention and perseverance. He was aware of the hum. The conflict was far from ended, and their ability to survive rested on their capacity to maintain a step ahead of the hunters. There existed a force known as the relentless shadow that put all of his might to the test, and the inventiveness of the father's steadfast dedication to keeping his daughters safe. In this last siege was the basis for their opposition. His flexibility, coupled with the daughter's increasing self-assurance and abilities, produced a powerful protection against the hunter's unrelenting pursuit, even though there was a greater threat. With every second that goes by, the families and their caretakers, there was still unity and resolve. Unbroken, demonstrating the strength of their relationship, the father realized it took more than his own to survive. The strength and readiness of his daughters required to comprehend the risks they encountered and how to handle them using a guerrero he started, with a mixture of eagerness and patience. Teaching them to use their skills more precisely, they had raw potential for quickness, agility, and sensory perception that is well beyond human capabilities. But they were inexperienced. But he recognized the significance of utilizing their strengths into useful abilities, making sure they could deal with threats in an efficient manner. Training turned as a crucial component of their day-to-day activities. The father taught them several methods. They call on self-retrieval, concentration, and coordination. He highlighted the significance of maintaining composure amid pressure and strategic thinking even as dread was about to overwhelm. Their skills offered them a competitive advantage, had to understand how and when to use them. Their movements grew more precise with time, their responses more rapidly, and their greater awareness of their own power. Initially sophisticated, the daughters had difficulties, bearing the burden of accountability. They were still young and unfamiliar with the notion of war and the harsh barriers. The father's survival reality encouraged them by reminding them that their skills weren't a liability, but a present. He presented their instruction as a method to safeguard not just themselves, but also one another. This viewpoint changed their outlook, creating a feeling of purpose that overcame fear in spite of their development. Moments of uncertainty persisted. The daughters struggled to understand the awareness of their foreign origins, a reminder of their differences from their father. They asked if because of their skills, they were a threat to he, worries that they might not succeed in a particular exercise. The father addressed the crucial occasion, their worries with empathy and sincerity, reassures them that their relationship was unbreakable. He underlined, unity, not perfection, was the source of strength. Their self-assurance started to increase as they had minor successes throughout their training. They learned how to integrate their advantages in ways that boosted their efficiency in fostering a synergy that exceeded the total of its portions. These instances strengthened their confidence in both their own abilities and in the father kept guiding them both, them striking a balance between teaching and comfort, that his steadfast assistance was a continuous source of power for them, permitting them to exceed their limitations. The development of the daughter was apparent in their growing capacity for foreseeing and react to obstacles. Their enhanced senses enabled them to recognize minor adjustments to their surroundings, providing them with a competitive edge in recognizing possible dangers. They practiced with these skills to avoid being discovered and outsmart rivals, and turn what could have been weaknesses in assets. Their quickness and agility served as instruments for survival skills developed via frequent exercises and exercises as their abilities grew. The daughters also discovered how to depend on one another in novel ways. They established a profound awareness of one another's advantages and shortcomings, collaborating with smooth cooperation, and the relationship they created via common experiences and difficulties became a pillar of their tenacity. The father saw their gaining self-assurance and satisfaction in knowing that their development was evidence of their bravery, and assessment of the father's function as a mentor went above and above the call of duty. He instilled in them the importance of critical thinking and flexibility, fostering them to evaluate circumstances and he underlined making, judgments under pressure. The significance of staying ahead of the game of its adversaries, using intelligence and ingenuity to get beyond challenges. The daughters accepted these teachings and discovered methods to use their special skills to fixing issues and developing a plan. As they trained, the daughters started to consider themselves not to be victims of situation, but as engaged participants. In order to survive, they took pride in their skills and acknowledging their capacity to influence their own fate. The father's attempts to give them more authority were greeted with excitement and decision, generating a dynamic in which they gained knowledge about one another's humanity. Inventiveness enhanced their alien skills, creating a collaboration that was both efficient and motivating the expanding hunters. The hunters' threat acted as a continuous reminder of the risks involved. The father utilized this fact to inspire the daughters, who present their education as ways to take back authority over their lives. He advised them to use turning their anxieties into action and changing uncertainty into the daughters' focus. Resilience findings were used in response, power in their common goal, and the understanding that they weren't alone. Their development came to a head in a few that showed they were prepared to confront obstacles head-on with the daughters. Once uncertain and reluctant, they now marched with assurance and accuracy of their relationship with their daughters. As they worked, their father grew closer, jointly, each of them making a contribution to the conflict. The collective strength of the family recognized the value of trust and communication by applying these guidelines to handle challenging circumstances. The father's lessons that went beyond the practical. He gave them a feeling of optimism and endure, reminding them that their situation did not define them. Instead, he told tales of tenacity and survival based on his personal encounters to motivate them to lessons that struck a deep, reaffirming chord, their confidence in their capacity to conquer every challenge. The daughters brought these beliefs with them and discovered comfort in the knowledge of their father as their father. As the training went on, the girls started to not consider themselves a liability, but as a resource. They were proud of skills and the advancements they made considering every obstacle as an opportunity. Chance to develop the father's steadfast assistance and direction were crucial in forming their mentality, encouraging a feeling of self-determination that would be beneficial to them in the face of future obstacles to the family's cohesion. And their biggest strength was their determination. Strength that get them ready for whatever awaited the hunters' return. With stronger force behind their resolve, noticeable in the deliberate buildup of their strategies, they had researched the defenses and modified their strategy. Utilizing their cutting-edge technology to make a strong attack on the father, realized this was no longer an endurance test, but a final conflict. He had expected them perseverance and readiness for a conflict that would require every ounce of strategic expertise and fix the chord. The time has come to put all of his getting ready for the final test the hunters made. Accurate advancements utilizing specialist machinery made to counteract the benefits of the environment. Decades, their familiarity with the landscape had enhanced, and they moved with assurance. Their figures supported by strengthens. The father's attention sharpened while he evaluated their motions. Finding ways to cause disruption, their construction, he used his profound knowledge of their strategies, predicting their tactics and retaliating against them with strategic moves. The daughters now possess both confidence and skill, started to move. Participants in the defense they worked on in appearing less synchronized with their dad, carrying out maneuvers that included their skills, using his strategic acumen, their dexterity and acute perception enabled them to remain ahead of. The hunters are making holes that changed the distribution of power. The earlier training sessions with dad were boring, as the daughters showed exceptional poise under pressure. Having mastered this, the daughters showed exceptional poise under pressure, swiftly adjusting to the requirements of the laboratory. The hunters used a combination of using physical force and psychological strategies. In an attempt to overwhelm their targets, the hunters' diversionary tactics and decoys, maneuvers meant to divide the family priorities and take advantage of any indications of disorder. Despite his frailty, the father stayed firm. He pushed the children out slowly, shaking their hands off, asking for their attention. Slowly, the father stayed firm, supporting their efforts with a mix of inventiveness and tenacity. He found weaknesses in their utilizing the daughter's the capacity to take advantage of these gaps and break their unity as the dispute intensified. The hunters' release of their most cutting-edge weapons in an effort to the advantage of the father's, Prav's inventiveness was invaluable. As he came up with creative ways to stop these dangers to his mental faculties, a few more steps forward prevented the family from being overburdened, enabling them to keep up their defensive posture. The daughters, under his direction, shown their increasing proficiency in their skills by utilizing them with accuracy and intent in spite of their endeavors. The unwavering character of the hunters started to take a toll on the father, had to deal with juggling both defense and offense. Understanding that even a slight slip-up could have disastrous repercussions, he depended on his steadfast repercussions. 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 He depended on failing to stand out in the field for daily bread. Gaining power from the relationship he had with his daughters, unity turned into a source of fortitude, enabling people to overcome times of fatigue and skepticism of hunters, irritated by their failure to obtain the deer. A resounding victory grew more hostile, pressing their assault. Vigor has returned, causing the family to into an important stage of the conflict. The father acknowledged the need for a daring plan to reverse the utilitarian utilizing the element of surprise, tide. To stop the hunter's progress, he created a strategy that needed exact execution in tandem with his girls to make the most of their abilities. The pivotal moment occurred when the family conducted a well-coordinated counteroffensive, utilizing their combined skills to outwit and outmaneuver the hunters. Daughters showed incredible courage, taking measured chances that resulted in crucial occasions that their efforts produced gaps that the father took advantage of, changing the distribution of power and putting the hunters on the defensive. The tenacity and solidarity of the family showed superior strength to the hunters. Unrelenting hostility during the conflict culminated with the hunters, now cornered, made a last-ditch effort to accomplish their goal. The father had to, the final test of his determination, facing the entire power of their assault. With unwavering resolve, the daughters were standing next to him, their self-assurance and skills now completely learned. That by working together, they conquered the hunter's last attack with a mix of strategic expertise and tenacity to emerge triumphant. The father lost the war. Weary and wounded, they endured the physical conflict's toll on his daughters. Despite being victorious, the emotional, the mass of the experience, but their relationship had just strengthened. More resilient, forged in the furnace of their shared struggle, they had demonstrated their resilience and strength, appearing as the united force is able to confront any challenge. The hunters, who were vanquished, and there was no immediate danger from scattered followers. The family's triumph was difficult at first. Evidence of their tenacity and harmony, the father's guidance, and the bravery of the daughter had overcome insurmountable chances that guaranteed their surviving despite relentless hardship. They had triumphed over the hunters, not only with strength, but also with the indestructible connection that characterized their family. The fallout from the family physically exited the altercation and exhausted emotionally, yet their solidarity was demonstrated by their survival and tenacity of the hunters, but powerful had been vanquished by their cutting-edge technology and brutal tactics that are unable to get past the A family's power, bound by love and resolve. The father had, in spite of his injuries, aimed at guaranteeing the security of his girls, being aware of that watchfulness was still necessary in a world full of danger. The father's recuperation turned into a top priority, with the daughters applying their skills to aid in his recovery from their special link to the surroundings permitted them to locate materials that sped up his recuperation, proving the extent of their relationship and their resolve to treat him the way he had always treated. This healing phase strengthened them, their awareness of mutual reliance enhancing their dedication to one another, as well as to their mutual survival. Experience had a significant influence on the daughters, changing how they perceive of oneself and their position within the world in which they encountered the unrelenting adversary, and came out stronger. Their assurance, based on their capacity to take bold action and defend those who cherished the teachings, from their dad's direction became a firmly embedded kind of their strategy for addressing upcoming obstacles and highlighting the value of resilience. With flexibility, the family spent time. Consider the conflict and its ramifications. They recognized that although direct danger had been eliminated, the hunter's loss must not overlook the father's drawing on his background, clarified the possibility of being prepared enough. Knowing potential risks and the necessity of staying prepared, this information did not impart terror, yet a feeling of direction as they decided to keep improving their skills and enhancing the conflict's defenses. Also emphasized the significance of flexibility the family realized. To survive, one needed more than just strength and proficiency, as well as the capacity to acquire and change. The father started instructing his sons on how to anticipate and react, daughters to fresh dangers, making sure they could traverse a constantly shifting terrain of problems. This emphasis on ongoing growth emerged as a key component of their lives that cultivate an attitude that values planning and creativity in spite of the pressures. A persistent danger that the family discovered, peaceful and joyful moments in their shared triumph. They rejoiced in their triumph, not as a definitive moment, but as a folktale moment. These moments throughout Millstone's journey of relationships served as a reminder of what they were battling to keep a link intact, that went beyond their disagreements and gave them courage. The pride of the parent in his girls were clearly visible, as were their appreciation for his constant direction and assist the father, who also made use of this time to show off more of his insightful illustrations. Based on his personal experiences, to offer viewpoint and support, he highlighted the significance of hope and persistence, reminding his daughters that difficulties were a normal component of life, but these are not insurmountable lessons that profoundly influenced them. Examining and reiterating their resolve to confront the future with optimism demonstrated by the tenacity of their father, started becoming more involved in their destiny. Together they looked into methods to improve their skills through experimentation, utilizing fresh methods and approaches that increased their capabilities. Of this proactive strategy demonstrated their increasing maturity and self-assurance as they accept their duties as guardians and collaborators in their family. The family also took measures to ensure their survival actions to strengthen their sanctuary's security, utilizing the knowledge acquired from the conflict to support their defenses. They modified their tactics to fix any possible weaknesses, maintaining the safety of their house. Have these endeavors demonstrated their dedication to not just surviving, but flourishing despite hardship, as they look to the family's future? Acknowledge that their journey was lengthy. From the conflict with the hunters had been a pivotal event, although it was but one section of a longer narrative. They decided to keep constructing on the base they had established, using past experiences to direct their behavior and fortify their connection and friendship. And perseverance turned into a source of hope, a reminder that despite the overwhelming odds, strength could be discovered in their shared links. The daughter's bravery and the father's love have seen them through their most difficult times, demonstrating that they were able to conquer any obstacle. Their biggest advantage became their knowledge, source of self-assurance and resolve that would direct them as they were navigating the universe's uncertainties. The journey of the family was not characterized by their difficulties, but through their capacity to develop and adjust. They accepted the teachings. They have discovered how to use them to form a future that put their security first, and contentment. The father's steadfast commitment and the daughter's fortitude were evidence of the strength of love and solidarity, guaranteeing that their narrative would persist despite any obstacles awaited.